Kirk, first of all, again, everybody knows, regular listeners, regular viewers to these video shows, they know that I always begin by thanking the guests, of course. But today, not only do I need to thank you for giving me some of your time, I need to thank you because we rearranged the schedule so that we could do this on video and actually see each other too. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
That's fine. Now, of course, I want to talk about your upcoming album, My Blues Pathway, which is going to be released on September the 25th. I've been very lucky. I've been sent an advanced digital copy of it. I've been playing it for the last few days. I really love it. So I'm looking forward to
Wow.
some chat on that. I think it's a great album. But
Thank you so much.
before we get into that, of course, I've got to talk a little bit about you, a little bit about music in general. And
Sure.
I've been reading some stuff up on you and I've been watching interviews, of course, as well as listening to your music. And I found it fascinating of how you and the guitar stems back to your older brother, Walter.
Yes,
And how that,
absolutely.
yeah, and you saw him. Um, do you ever think, I mean, I thought of this because I'm an only child, so I've got no siblings that to influence or to look up to or, for any source
Yeah.
of inspiration. Do you think if Walter, say he played a different instrument, for example, was it the guitar and the sound of the guitar that drew you in? Or was it because your older brother had got it and you thought, oh, that looks good? And because Walter had got that, because I thought, if, say you'd got a violin, for instance, would you think you'd be drawn to the violin?
Well, my older brother was a very charismatic type person and a very influential type person, just him as a person.
Hmm.
And I think it's a combination of all of those things. I think because he done it, I think because it was cool, kind of. And I also just, for some reason, I've thought about this a lot over the years. I really feel like I was born to play guitar.
Hmm.
It's almost like I could play the guitar before I could actually play it. When I remember back to being, 8 or 9 years old, it seems like it was almost just predestined for me to play the guitar. I just loved it. I loved everything about the guitar. When I was a little boy in church, I would just sit next to the musicians. I would love to hear people sing, and I was just drawn to music, drawn to, my brother playing guitar and my sister-in-law and her family, they would sing at my father's church. So I would just always want to be around them all the time, because they were singing and
Yeah.
playing. So I would definitely say it's a combination of all those things.
Did you ever get any frustration when you were learning the guitar? Because, I mean, I've got one over my shoulder there and it's been there ages. And I'm sure I speak for a lot of people who think, oh, it'd be great to play the guitar. And so you get one and you pick it up, and then 5 minutes later, you're not playing it like you want to. And you need that patience and obvious love for it as well. So it very often hangs up there. But and me looking at it thinking, oh, I wish I could play that. So did you ever
Yeah.
go through that as well? And you thought, oh, the frustration side of it.
You know, I never went through that actually because I was so drawn to it and I loved it so much that I just loved the process, as far back as I can remember, it never was a time because I would go to school, come home, think about guitar all day at school, and just hoping that it would, the day would go by faster so I could get home and play the guitar. So it never was really that frustrating thing because I think I was so young and I started so early that it's like reading or doing math or anything else. It's just something that you just enjoy to do. You want to do it. So
Yeah.
you just kind of enjoy the process. And I actually tell, some of the students I've had, just enjoy the process. Enjoy that you don't know this and let each day be like a inspiration to try and figure something out. If it's just one little thing, one note or a little chord or anything, just enjoy the process and don't think about how long it's
Hmm.
taking or whatever.
And I
Because
think
I
it's,
mean, most people say, well, how do I get to play guitar like you? Or how do I,
yeah.
do it and I want to do it faster and everything? Well, I've invested my whole life in the
Yeah.
guitar. I feel like, how do you fly an airplane, in a day or whatever?
It is, and I think having that passion helps as well.
Yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
blues music, more than any other genre of music, is really, and it comes through with passion and emotion. I did a show, well, last month I think it was, with Kim Simmons from Savoy Brown, British
Oh, cool.
blues bands, yeah. And I was
Yeah.
talking to him about it with blues music is a genre of music that more than any is all about emotion. You can feel it when you listen to it, and let's not even begin on the live shows, which unfortunately are few and far between
Yeah.
at the moment, where it really hits you in waves. What do you think
Hmm.
it is about the blues in particular that's so heavy on the emotion, and the listener can genuinely feel it?
Well, it's kind of I'm kind of coming at it from a different way because coming from, gospel
Mm,
music and
yeah,
coming from the church, it kind of just all seemed one and the same. It's like, everybody in it, together. It's
yeah,
all about togetherness. Like, you take Saturday night at a club, everybody's there and they're like with you and you're playing the blues and you're feeling it and you hear the guitar and the singing and it's just this whole thing and you dance and everything. Then you turn around Sunday morning and you kind of do the same thing, but you're just talking about, you know, religious
yeah.
things, stuff like that, so it's sort of like all kind of combined in a way, so that's really how I look at it, and it is absolutely a emotional type thing, and it's direct, and it's just stripped down of all this other stuff, and it just kind of reaches you in the heart, and that's why I love it and why it's been a big part of my whole musical makeup,
Mm.
really,
See, I wish our churches were like the gospel churches that you grew up in. Our churches are just so dull. Just-
That's what all my friends say. They're
oh,
like, "Man, I wish church was like,
yeah,
that for us."
they should be because if you're religious and you want to celebrate, it should be like those gospel churches. Over here, it just seems depressing more than anything.
Oh,
So I
I
wish it.
mean, yeah, it's like, I might not be the most religious guy now, but what I really took from the church and my upbringing and everything was really the spiritual type thing. And spiritual meaning, like the way it moves you, the
Mhm.
emotion of it, the way, you connect with it and connect with other people. And that whole part of it is what I really took from the church.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
all in this together, kind of.
exactly. Yeah. Well,
Let's join the team. No.
well, regular listeners to the show and viewers, because we started doing the video shows now as well, they know rock music is my genre of music. I grew
Yeah,
up, yeah, I got into rock music in the late 70s. And then, of course,
nice.
like anything that you find, that you get interested in, you get a passion for, you start looking into it. And then I saw, okay, rock music, it's born from the blues. So I started looking into the blues. So I go, this again, the late 70s, early 80s, to a
Yeah.
record store. Remember those days? You'd walk into a record store.
Yes. Yes.
The
Absolutely.
good old days when you used to do that. So
Yeah.
I went to the blues section and I'd got no idea about who was who. So I just picked up ones, and I
Yeah.
remember picking. And an early one was Savoy Brown. Again, I talked to Kim Simmons about that. But other
Fantastic.
earlier ones I picked up Muddy Waters. I picked up Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah.
And I picked up Shaky Horton. And I picked up Shaky Horton because I've always loved the harmonica. And there's a
Yeah.
harmonica on the cover. Again, you're always drawn to the covers with LPs,
Yeah.
so I picked those
Absolutely.
up, and I loved them. I really,
Yeah.
and I could see the connection with the rock music, and I think even today people think with blues music, with all types of music, it's just cut and dried that it's that. Blues music covers so much, doesn't it? Even
It
within those
really does.
three albums that I've talked about, they were so different, yet
Yeah.
yet all really, really, really good.
Yeah.
What were the early blues people? I mean, what was the early music that you were listening to that influenced you?
Well, I would say the earliest music was definitely in my father's church,
Mhm.
but in addition to that, we had people like I would listen to people like Dixie Hummingbirds, a quartet gospel group, from I guess they started in the late 40s, and that music was very much connected, like the blues and the gospel. That's where those two things really meet. I would say the Mighty Class of Joy is another, group, and then BB King, Bobby Bland, you know, Prince, all of that kind of stuff, like funk music, James Brown,
Hmm.
all of that stuff really early, Jimi Hendrix really early, Stevie Ray Vaughan really early, so it was sort of all of that, I was sort of like just kind of listening to all of it, but I would really say early gospel music, was the big thing, and then we get into BB King and, people like that. Yeah.
And then you've got your guitar and you're constantly practicing on it all the time. I'd love to know
Yes.
what's the longest.
Still to this
You've got
day.
it there. That's great. what what's the longest you've gone without playing the guitar? Can you remember how long you've gone without actually holding a guitar and playing
Oh
it?
man, those are some of my saddest times. You know, like, cause I really now I don't really practice the guitar. It's more in my mind now, and
Mm,
I kind of just conceptualize the guitar, and just think of different ways to get over my what's in my mind and my heart.
mm,
So, you know, the longest I would say it's just been like maybe on holidays or something like that, maybe a week or something. But I know after a few days, even if I say, oh, I'm not going to bring a guitar and it's more than a few days, I start to get a little weird because this has been my companion for my whole life.
yeah.
And the guitar has never let me down in any kind of way. I've maybe let it down, but it's never let me down. So it's the one constant thing that's been there forever. And I definitely, love the guitar and I definitely, get reacquainted to it and I go through times where maybe I don't play it as much and then I get excited.
Mhm.
And I just love guitars, all different kinds and music and strumming little songs and just sitting there by myself on the couch playing guitar. So it's something that's definitely always been there.
That's great. I mean, you've brought singing in. You're a vocalist now as well.
Oh wow.
How's
That's
that been
scary
for
to
you?
even think about. Well, I that was out of necessity. Singing was out of necessity, and it turned into something that I actually want to get better at, and I see myself improving a little bit, and I'm like, oh, okay, wow, okay, so I can play guitar and have that, and I can also sort of be my own man and say what I want to say through
Mhm.
writing songs. So this is a whole new world for me because
Yeah.
my whole life has been guitar and making other people hopefully make them sound a little better, with maybe a part or something.
Does the confidence for standing up and singing, do you think it comes from going back to the church days with the gospel where everybody's there and everybody's got a voice? Because I should imagine standing on stage with a guitar must be quite nerve-wracking, at least to begin with, when you've got a crowd of people looking at you. But I think it's another step again when you've actually got to sing. I think that's one of the nightmares that people have is, singing or even public speaking is something
Oh
that
yeah.
scares people. So that's another step to get confident with.
Yeah, for the guitar, it was pretty natural to do it in front of people because I started so young playing in
Mm.
church. And I mean, church people are some of the worst critics during my time. They're like, "Oh, you sound terrible." Not really, but they're pretty hard on you. So I had a pretty tough crowd early on, so I developed a way to, not be stage fright. But the singing, but even with the singing, like you start to, the more you are prepared, the more
Mm.
you know the lyrics, the more you practice, the less nervous you are. I noticed I had this one song that one of the first songs I ever sang, Found Love by Jimmy Reed or Congo Square by Sonny Landers. Those are two songs that I sang from the beginning pretty much when I first started singing. And I know if I ever sing those songs now, I'm not really that nervous because
Yeah.
I just done them so many times. So a note to Kirk Fletcher, a note to myself is to always practice a lot singing. you know, then you won't be as nervous.
I watched an interesting interview with you a few days ago, and you were talking about your singing and
Mhm.
how linking it with Karen Carpenter from the Carpenters,
Oh
bands that I grew up
man.
listening to and talked about on the show
Oh,
before. I love the Carpenters.
that's one of my favorite. It's just it's just pure. It's so pure. It's not trying to be anything. It's just, you know, a woman with a fantastic voice that's so pure, and then these arrangements are just so beautiful and so straight ahead and not so, like colored with all this other stuff. It's just so direct, and her voice was just so pure. I
Oh
just
yeah,
love it so
yeah.
much.
And this, I mean, this leads us into. Let's have a chat about my blues pathway
Sure.
that's coming
The
out. And
Carpenters to my blues pathway. I love
it's,
it.
it's a natural progression, isn't it? Come on, let's
Yes,
face it.
it really is. In my world, it is.
So I mean, there's a really good mixture of songs on here where there's older ones, there's new songs. How how did you make the choice of what songs to do on the album? Which ones are for the newer songs? Which ones for the older songs? Because there's so much to choose from.
Well, it's funny. I get asked this question quite a
Yeah,
bit,
yeah.
it's just I'm a different person than I was. We
Mm.
all are, I'm sure,
Oh,
than
yeah, definitely.
20, 25 years ago. And this is the blues record that I needed to make now.
Mm.
As like a reflection on all of the different things that's happened in my life. I mean, and some songs were just holdovers that I love to hear other people like Kim Wilson or whatever sing, like Fatten and Frost for Snakes. I used to play that with harmonica players, a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to do my own spin on it. And I really love Taj Mahal. So I kind of wanted to marry those things together. So it's sort of a combination of writing songs now, writing original songs, and also picking covers that are kind of obscure and
Yeah.
kind of my own spin that I've just wanted to do for many years that I never had the courage to do, like the I Rather Fight Than Switch by AC Reed. I mean, I heard a friend of mine, Jay Moeller, this drummer, played that song for me years ago, probably 20 years ago, and I've always just wanted to do it. So this was just the golden opportunity to just do some of the songs that I love, and then I want to marry that with originals. But I thought it was important on this record, on this blues record, to do covers too, because in the lineage of blues artists from the past, a lot of them done like covers, and it sort of
Yeah.
revitalizes, like, the older artists and their catalog of songs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I just thought it was, important to do that for this record.
It worked with me because I thought, oh, who's that artist then? Who you originally buy, so then you go back, and I was looking at their
Yeah,
past body of work, so it got me interested in
yeah,
theirs. Then, so it's just perpetuating the work. It's giving the love back, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you recorded this at the end of last year, is that right?
Yeah, at Christmas time last year, yeah. And finished it about the first part, January 2020. Yeah. Right before the world went crazy.
Exactly, exactly. It's a good show you got it recorded then. I
Yeah,
watched I
absolutely.
watched a great documentary the other day about a recording studio here in Wales called
Mm.
Rockfield, and there was a lot of stuff. It's predominantly in the 70s, but I found it interesting because the bands that went there, they had months to record their albums. Some
Oh
even stayed
yeah.
there years, and it's
Yeah,
so different nowadays, isn't it? Putting albums in that
absolutely.
luxury of a record company saying, here's a few £1 million, here's a few $1 million. Go and spend as long as you want making an album. It's completely different now. Is
Yeah.
is is the pressure good for you? I mean, the whole music business is completely different. But what's it like putting an album together these days?
Well, for me, it's you know, I hate to use this word because I know real session players, like some of my friends are like serious, studio legends.
Hmm.
But I really feel like, I kind of share some of those session musician type things in my playing because I've played, on quite a few records and
Yeah,
stuff like that. So I think that I really don't, and I'm not one to like, obsess over anything. I really like one or two takes. So for me to think of recording a record for a long time is just weird, you know. Like I like to write the song, get it all arranged and everything like that, and then go in the studio and cut it. You know,
Yeah.
maybe go over it two or three times. If I'm taking longer than that, then I don't know if I'm ready. So I kind of like to do it shorter. You know, I don't really take that much time. But in the future, I would like to do all the basic tracks and then use the studio to like do more to it, to
Yeah.
add things and to color it, but have the core already recorded. So I probably would, because I always, you know, like I'm pretty good at coming up with ideas, you know, like different, you know, little parts and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I would just like to exercise that a little bit more down the line. But, you know, 2 weeks or so or a week or whatever, that's my last record I recorded in like 6 days, you know.
Wow.
So it doesn't, you know, I'm totally fine with, you know, doing things fast,
Because you
you know.
recorded your previous one here in the UK, didn't you?
Uh-huh, in Bristol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does
Johnny
that have
Henderson and
does that have any difference to the feel of where you record? Are you influenced by your surroundings, or are the songs already locked in, and where you record doesn't really make that much of a difference?
I think it was such a great experience recording with Johnny Henderson and Matt Brown on Hold On in Bristol because Nick Dover, the studio owner, was such a nice guy. And the musicians were incredible. And we just went in there and we actually, every day, we only probably spent maybe 3 hours or something actually recording.
Hmm.
I mean, we would go for lunch, we would have coffees, it was so relaxing, you know, it was just like the total thing of just having fun. So I do think where you record is sort of important because you would have a different energy.
Yeah.
You know, like in the UK, I really like the UK. You know, I really like Bristol. You know, I really like different parts of the UK. So I'm really kind of comfortable, you know, there. And in LA, I'm from LA. So it's just a different kind of vibe. It's a little bit more, you know, under the microscope because all of my friends are like, you know, think they know everything. So it's a little bit more under the microscope. I can't wait for them to hear this too. They're gonna
That's
kill me. But you know, it's just different, you know. Yeah,
that's
but I really like it though. I really like the different places, you know, and it does influence the music I feel.
yeah. And the new album, like I said, that's coming out, and normally I presume you'd be doing live shows to help promote it.
Yeah,
You'd be out on the road, and we're in a very different place at the moment.
yeah.
What have you got planned to help promote the album, to get it into people's ears? And I mean, we're talking. It's great that we live in this age that I'm sat here in Wales, and
Hmm.
you're over there in Switzerland, and we're
Hmm.
talking to each other. We can see each other. This is really
Yeah.
good. And you as an artist have got. There are ways that you can still be seen and get out there, but it's so different now. What have you got planned for to help with this album?
Well, you know, actually, you know, I'm actually getting more opportunities as far as people hearing the record and, you know, different people, yeah, just different people hearing the record than I
Hmm.
would normally because it's so much, you know, going on when everything is normal. So I think people that might not necessarily hear the record before might get a chance to actually hear my music more now because there isn't much else going on,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
In some ways, you know. And also living in Switzerland, it's starting to open up just a little bit. You know, I have a couple shows in Italy planned and, you know, France and stuff like that. So there is a small little light at the end of the tunnel, at least enough to make me be able to focus on, okay, there is one show, and I'm very, very grateful for that, you
Yeah.
know. So that, as well as, you know, just doing interviews and, you know, doing my little YouTube
Hmm. Yeah.
videos, you know, telling my story
Yeah.
about, you know, things I've learned, you know, throughout my career, it's just been really great for me just to have a place to release, you know.
Yeah. And of course, the first single's out from the album as well.
Yeah, yeah, and people have been really complimentary and said some really nice things. So that's definitely nice, especially right now when, everything is turned upside down. So I'm just trying to remember the things that I love most about music and trying to stay positive
Yeah.
and, you know, things like that and just hope for the best, really.
Well, I can reassure everybody watching this and listening to this that the rest of the album is really good too. If you've only heard the single, the rest of the album is really good too. You're all in for a treat
Thank you.
at the end of September.
Thank you.
And people know that because they know one of the things about the interview shows that I do. I only do interview shows with people whose work that I love. So
Oh,
when I say I really love the work, it's not for the sake, oh, we're talking to each other. It is genuine. I really do love the work. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing the interviews. So, yeah,
thank you so much.
congratulations again on a fantastic album. Um,
Thank you.
to wrap everything up,
Mhm.
what's the best way that people can find you online, follow what you're doing, keep up to date with everything that you've got going on?
Well, there's my website, kirkfletcherband.com. There's my Facebook, Kirk Fletcher. There's Instagram, Kirk Fletcher Music, and the record label is Cleopatra Records that the record is on. And yeah, I would say that that's the best way to find out what's going on with me.
Well, all
You know,
those links will be in the podcast notes so people can
yeah,
follow you easily. I do hope that the world starts to get some sort of normality. I really hope you can get over here to the UK, especially.
absolutely.
I always say this as well, especially to North Wales, where we are.
Yeah,
Would be you'd be always welcome in North
absolutely.
Wales, Kirk. You really would.
Thank you so much.
Well, for the
Thank you.
sake of the interview, we shall say goodbye, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you, and hopefully not for the last time too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thanks, Kirk. Goodbye.
Goodbye.